It's my pleasure and honor to have Professor Gotlieb, Kelly Gotlieb here. He is a retired Professor Emeritus from University of Toronto, my alma mater. And some people would call Professor Gotlieb Kelly as father of computing in Canada. So it's my pleasure to have you on the line, sir, here today, Kelly.
Okay, go ahead with your questions, and I'll
Sure.
see if I can answer them. But
all right.
as I say, I don't regard myself an expert on the subject.
Right. I'm sure, sir, you have forgotten more than most people have learned, including me in this subject. So our topic today here is Google Driverless Car, and it has been one of the hottest topic in the last many months now. And as you already mentioned before I wrote the official introduction, there are multiple states. In fact, by my counting, 3 states in the United States have already have laws permitting Google to test driverless car. I know of California, which I'm going to go into more, and Nevada is another state, but let's go with California first. So from the legislation, I actually wrote an article in September 2012, right after the Google big guys. I think Dr. Larry Page or Mr. Larry Page, co-founder of Google, announced in a joint announcement with some California politician, I think the governor, announcing SB 1298. If I remember right, or if I read my article right, is vehicle autonomous. SB 1298 vehicles, autonomous vehicle safety and performance requirements. That's the title of the bill. And as part of the bill, my understanding is now Google Driverless Car can be tested on the road, provided Google pay a $5 million insurance, and provided there is always a driver in the car. And so, first of all,
That's what I expected. That although the car is running without his driver, the driver must be there. Yes. I'm not surprised at that stipulation.
Right, and my concern, I think I'm actually copying from Kelly. You gave a talk previously listing some of your concerns. How about I'll let you list some of the concern that you expressed then, or you still have now on driverless car, this kind of concept.
Well, one concern, and it could, United States is a very litigious society. They sue, lots of people sue at the drop of a hat.
Totally agree.
And supposing a driverless car gets into an accident, now who's to blame? And who can you sue? The person who wrote the program, Google, who authorized the car manufacturer, the person who's in the car, and presumably would be able to take over if he felt that the equipment had failed, or all of the above. So you have some big legal problems if an accident occurs. And I don't think any of them have been tested by law yet. I don't know whether how often even in the state would permit driverless cars that has been happening, and how often, if any, there have been accidents with them, sometimes maybe even fatal accidents. So there are a lot of questions to be asked in case of failure. So, who's responsible and how do you handle it?
Yeah, Kelly, I was saying, in fact, one of the co-founders of Google gave this as an example. He was saying the Google driverless car is so good, it's going to be able to drive blind people. We are talking about blind people now. Blind people around from A to B. And what do you hear? If I'm not mistaken, I think that's one of the examples he actually gave. What do you hear? What would you say when you hear this example of driving blind people?
I didn't give that example, but the point is that what you really want is that if you have a person beside this car which is driving by itself, and it looks like an accident is coming, and the person presumably is clever than a robot.
Yep.
And if he sees it an accident, can he take control of the car?
Right.
And try to avert the accident?
Yeah, it's the override in the human, right?
Exactly. I mean, at what point, if any, will you allow a human to override the robot?
Yeah, and in a recent discussion I have with someone, I gave the example. In the last few decades, the automatic autopilot in airplane are so good. In fact, they are so good that I think every moment that the pilot touches the control, it actually make it worse. It's either spending more fuel or taking longer and whatnot. But my question is, when do we see a passenger carrying plane with no pilot in it? I haven't seen one yet, and I think they have autopilot for so many years now, right?
Yeah. They have plenty. Passenger carrying planes. Yeah, they have plenty of course, surveillance planes and even planes going after criminal, individuals without pilots, but they haven't been carrying passengers planes. And you see, let's take the example of medicine. There are programs which do surgery or do diagnostics, but they always have a doctor. And they always allow the doctor to override the program if the doctor thinks that the program is making a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want to do that for cars?
Yeah. And I would love to well, let me actually point out one thing. In Calgary, because I'm quite proud, we have the neuro arm, which is an arm, there's basically a robot and whatnot, but the neurosurgeon is the final person that is controlling the robot.
Exactly.
They're not doing the surgery by themselves.
So there's always a person who has the ultimate responsibility.
And I think people are not aware that with a car, it's not like a train. Like, let me bring out the topic of an autonomous train, because in my understanding is in Vancouver, the SkyTrain or something is already driverless, but they drive on a track that has pretty much control environment, not like on the road where something sudden can happen, right?
Well, until recently, it's always it's been accepted that when you use robotic or autonomous, cars, trains, planes, medical procedures, whatever, there is nevertheless a human present who can, if his judgment makes him feel that the autonomous thing is making a mistake, he can override it. Mm-hmm. Now, I've never seen in autonomous cars where that provision is made.
Sorry.
In the last analysis, no matter how good robots are, we think, robots can be as good or better than people playing chess.
Yeah.
Okay, there are situations where robots have really exceeded human performance. But I don't think we're willing to admit that robots now exceed human performance and judgment in all situations.
Right. I think we can agree on that. But here's the Google co-founders. They will come back with this, though. They will come back with their statistics and what I'm saying. Oh, the Google Driverless Car are so much safer than average drive. I don't know how they phrase it.
They do say that, and it's probably true. I think it is. I think it's so much safer in in most conditions. Okay, I will concede that.
Yeah.
I will not concede that it will be safer in all conditions.
Yeah, it's the all that we are both worrying deeply about.
Driverless cars, apparently, besides being safer, they're more economical because apparently they let the cars drive with a smaller distance between them, so that you can get more traffic on the same car. Mm-hmm. So they're safer and cheaper, and so they're good. I mean, and I wouldn't I wouldn't want to see them prohibited, but I would not want them to be the controlling institute and the controlling system of last resort.
Oh, okay. So you're willing to, as long as there's a human override, and then you would even allow them to drive on the road anywhere.
The way I feel now is that a smart human. You remember the pilot who landed the plane in
the Hudson.
The Hudson River?
Oh, yeah, that was a lovely example.
Okay, so apparently he exercised marvelous control and saved, the lives of everybody abroad. I don't think we'd have a robot as good as that pilot right now.
No, not right now, and maybe for many years.
You would have to prove it. That this man, in unusual conditions, never experienced, his years and years of experience has led him to take control and save everybody's life. Well, I'm not willing to accept that a robot would be better than this man.
Right. So at some point, this is me thinking out loud, and I was thinking, if I confine the Google Driverless Car in a very restricted area, specific lanes and whatnot, but if I hear you right, Kelly, you are quite willing to actually let them roam free as long as there's a human overriding the special situation. So you are more relaxed than me, than, like, for example, I'm thinking of turning them into trains a little bit, but you're willing to let them roam free as long as don't put a blind. Unfortunately, I mean, nothing against blind people, but don't put a blind driver there where he or she has no ability to see and override.
I think they're a great invention. I wouldn't like to see them banned by any means. I think it's worthwhile, but I'm willing. I keep insisting that under extreme conditions, I would trust a skilled person over a robot controlled by a program.
Right. Plus, if you put a human as a last resort and as an override, then the legislative framework or legislative issue that we had to deal with kind of go away, right? We don't have to worry about who to sue because, after all, I mean, there's a human.
I think it's a safer condition. And it may not be better. It could be that the human will override and be worse than the robot. That's possible. But I would take my chances on a human with long experience. And a sharp driver.
Right. So you're not totally saying that, hey, the human, when he or she overrides, will always be better. But then at least in many cases, it's quite possible.
I would say that if you've got an experienced pilot, an experienced driver who's been in many difficult situations, I'd rather have him in the extreme crisis than any program.
Right, I see. Yeah, right. You put the experienced driver, he or she, in the seat. Then you always prefer that to be to that of a really smart computer.
If their judgment is that they can do better than the robot, I would put my life on that.
I see. Right. Yes, that would be a great example. So Kelly, since I've got you on the line, and if you don't mind, I'm going to steal your brain for a little bit more. With the recent advent of Google glasses, I don't know if you've seen this fancy glass that Google has come up with. I think they're selling it for $1,500 or something like that. But it's a glass where you can wear, and there's a camera right there, and presumably allowed you to use Google.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it, but I read about it.
Right. Have you thought about the privacy implication? And if I understand right, Professor Steve Mann has done from University of Toronto again has done quite a lot of research in that area. Are you aware? Would you be willing to comment on the privacy implication on that kind of closeness in computing to us? I don't want to.
Well, we already have so much privacy things in sensing that I don't think it's worse than things we have already.
Really? Okay.
In other words, people have been willing to give up. Look. we have all these surveillance cameras everywhere.
Yes, we do.
I mean, even if we put a surveillance cameras at an intersection we have in Toronto, quite a few places where it tells you that this intersection is under surveillance. Okay, so if you go through a red light, you can expect, even though there's no policeman there, the cameras will take it and they can. So well, I'll put it this way: security trumps privacy every time.
Security,
so
like security of people.
When you're doing surveillance, in order to protect things, we generally accept that. And I think these cameras are just increased surveillance, and if safety is a consideration, I think we have to live with it.
Yeah, Professor Kelly, this is where I think I'm differ with you. I think in Canada, at least, and I'm definitely not an expert in Canada, but in Canada, I think we have a very different situation than, for example, England. England, because of their unfortunate history with terrorism all over the years and the bombing of the stations and whatnot, they have a massive number of surveillance camera all over the place, like London for one.
Yes,
but we don't,
true.
right? So we don't, and I would dare to say I would fight to my last breath until my death against my government or any government in any level of governments to put that much surveillance camera around me.
Well, as I say, I think it matters in how great the exposures are to criminal actions and crime and so on. And I think generally people, if people feel safety is a concern, is a big concern, then they'll give up privacy.
Yeah, maybe.
So it depends how safe you feel. How often you've got robbers come in. After all, many of us. I happen to have in my condo. I've got devices which will ring bells and so on. And I can turn it on when I leave. I never do. I've lived here for 25 years. I've never turned it on because I live on the top floor. And I've never had a very low intrusion. So I just don't turn on the safety protections of ringing bells off to the where we have the security.
Right.
But if people feel if they're significant risk to safety, we generally are willing to have more surveillance.
Right.
In fact, we'll insist on it.
If I may go back to the Google Glass again, it's in the sense that may not be security completely. It's more like fun and games. And that bit, it's like, and I think people are, and especially the people who are willing to have their names on the first hundreds of Google Glass, they are willing to put it on their face and connect it and actually transmitting. I don't know how are they going to use it, but sharing probably some of the most private stuff. It's kind of, we invite Big Brother right next to our eyes, and that to me is a super scary picture. Am I worrying myself too much, Professor?
But that's an extension of what we do on Facebook. I belong to Facebook, but it's the only thing I do. But I use it very seldom, and I don't give out much information. But privacy has become much more. I used to have a talk called "Privacy as a Concept as Time Has Come and Gone."
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I used to give that talk. Right now, my talk would generally be security trumps privacy every time.
Yeah, we have to have another talk on that. And Professor, I have to get you on Google Plus too. Yeah, we can just have you on Facebook. With Google Plus, we can do a live broadcast right onto YouTube, and whatever we say, and we can even take live questions if we are so inclined. Yeah.
Well, people are willing to, much more willing to give up privacy, for very small reasons on it. But that's a matter of choice, and I think as long as they're alerted to it, that'll sometimes be unwise to do so. Then you've got to let them make a choice.
Yeah, true. It's kind of, I think the new generation, especially the teens or the people that are in the high school or early university or young adults, I think they are more and more aware of what they are giving up. And I guess you have a point. We have to give them a choice. I'm a very conscious type that I'll protect my privacy a lot more than others. But yeah, you have a point that the choice is theirs.
I say you alert them and say that hey, you may say something and distribute something that in later years you'll be very sorry you did. So you better realize that. But in the end, I think you have to let people make the choice.
Right. All right. Well, try
and educate them about the risk, but let them make the choice.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly, for your chat today, and I look forward to when you have more time, we can chat some more, and hopefully with your camera set up and whatnot, we can do another video thing.
I'm sure I'll do that. In fact, as I say, someone's coming tonight to make this new computer, which will be much more powerful.
Right, and if it is, like this is, Kelly, may I say, and this is with no disrespect, you are the father of computing in Canada. Even at your age of over 90, you have a super duper computer. I don't think anyone will complain.
Well, I started working computers in 1947,
Yeah, 1947. And father of that title is not easily given, father of computing in Canada. 1947. Yeah, it was way before I was born. That's I can say for sure. Well,
the reason I did, that during the war, I helped the British design bombs with fuses with radios in them. So I was working during the war. I was working with radios that went into bombs, and I did a lot of calculations on how these bombs were working.
So
I did a lot of radios and electronics and calculations during the war in England. So when computers came along, these were naturally something that interested me, because a combination of radios and calculations was just what computers were.
When you mentioned the war in England, and especially in England, I have to ask you this. Did you get a chance to work with Alan Turing at the time?
I did, as a matter of fact, but not during the war. I met him in 1951.
Wow!
And we talked about things. I went to when we bought a Manchester computer, which was the second computer ever sold in the world, and it was built at the University of Manchester, and Turing was working there. So I went over to Manchester for 6 weeks, where I met Turing and had some discussions with him.
Wow, you met him for 6 weeks. And Turing, for those who don't know, Turing is, I don't know how to explain it, but the theoretical and practical. We have Turing machine. For those who are in the computer science, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Turing machine. Wow, so that 6 weeks, what was it like for him as a person? Were you guys in a similar age?
Well, he was extremely bright, very bright, quite private. But he committed suicide.
He did. Very unfortunate.
Sad story.
And it's a dark
page. He's homosexual, and the laws against homosexuals there were laws against homosexuality, and the police bothered him so much that in the end he committed suicide.
It's a dark page
It was not
in
long
history.
after I met him. It was really tragic.
Oh, did you? Oh, really? Oh, so not long after you met him, he committed suicide.
Yeah, just about 2 years after I met him.
Oh,
I met him in 1951, and I think this happened about 1953.
Right. So did you guys talk about only computer, or was he a very funny guy, or what was he like as a person?
No, I talked about, at that time, when I asked him what he was working on, he said he was working on a 4-leaf clover. But what it turned out, what he was working on a differential equation that was nonlinear, and that essentially could do genetic mutations.
Wow.
And it turns out that for linear differential equations, the solutions, you get a general solution, and then the initial conditions don't change the general solution very much. But for nonlinear, it's very different. The initial conditions can make big differences in the type of solutions, and that's a property of what we now call chaos theory. So a butterfly flaps its wings in Indonesia, and you get a storm in Brazil.
Yeah, the Mandelbrot
So besides doing computers, Turing was the first person in the world to solve a nonlinear differential equation.
Mathematically,
and he's considered the father of chaos theory.
Was it mathematically?
So a genius, a real genius.
Kelly, did he solve it mathematically, or was he using computer to help?
Oh, he was using I came in to learn to program this computer, and every morning I came in. He would use it at night, and every morning I'd come in.
Oh, I have to ask you then.
Computer,
what kind of memory? What kind of memory did that thing has, and how slow?
Oh, well, that was cathode ray tube flash memory and a magnetic drum storage. So it was really the second computer in the world.
Right.
That he was using.
Probably less memory than what we use to store a picture these days, right?
No, it had 1 millionth the power of an iPad.
Yeah, 1 millionth of it, and that is the top of the line computer. Did you say the second computer in the world, right? Yeah.
And incidentally, it filled a huge room. And it was vacuum tube, of course.
Right, of course. And that's where we got the word bug from, right? Because there was actually moth or something laying on the tubes and killing the tubes, and that's a bug. Wow. Yeah, so Kelly, I'm sure you can talk all day and all night with your vast knowledge. I would love to set up something with you again to chat some more, and when you get your camera.
I've been to Calgary and Alberta several times actually.
Oh.
I don't have any trip planned because I gave talks at Banff and I worked with a big company there. I forget the name for a minute.
Oh.
And when I came back from Banff, I actually stopped in at the University of Calgary.
Like you mean recently? Are you still Professor?
That was about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, right? Are you still active with research? And I have to ask this now. Yeah, are you still active with research or writing papers or reading or what?
I'm not doing much research, but I'm very much involved with the ACM and the appointment of computer committee and award. I'm co-chair of the ACM Awards Committee. So
okay.
So I travel to New York 2-3 times a year, and to San Francisco every June.
Right. Keep engaging yourself. Yeah, like I was saying, with Professor Ronald Coase, he's 102 years old now. His the Chinese edition of his new book just came out in China. He was doing some promo.
Right?
So 102 years old, but sorry with you, 90 some more. You are young.
I've got a way to go to that.
Yeah. All right.
I'm only 91.
Right. Well, I really truly, it is my honor. It has been my honor talking to you, and it will take me some time to cut up the interview, but then when it's up and ready, I'll post it onto YouTube, and I'll send you the link, and we can arrange something follow-up video interview afterwards, Kelly.
Okay, well, I'll be glad to help in any way I can.
Yeah, thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
sharing your insight, which is very important.